Good evening, guys. Ken at Tortoise Capital Nightly Strategy Podcast for January 25th, 2024. We start with Alcoa in the 30-minute chart using the hybrid swing. This yellow box represents today's price. The darker blue box represents the 5-day price action. Today there was a sell-off support reversal. 1, 2, 3 entry, the skin of the dragon, standard risk. It closed right here, so we're holding +1. And I decided to hold that one because this has a feel of a Kata 2. And the market was generally strong today in spite of the shenanigans in Tesla. That seemed to be pretty much contained within Tesla, and the rest of the market shook it off. Um, I think people enjoying Musk losing money a little bit too much, but it seems to be localized in Tesla so far. So AI continued its slide. This was a collapsing dragon. It never really collapsed much. It gave us a fractional win. Caterpillar, gap up and go. Standard risk. It ran all the way up to 303, pulled back to the VWAP where I exited, and it stabilized there. It closed with a flourish, so that could be promising tomorrow. But that gave us 2R intraday. I'm happy with that one. Cliff tried to 1, 2, 3, scratched midday. CVS, big gap down and then continued to fail, but that was really about it. I ended up getting ticked out here by the VWAP for a fraction. I thought hard about this 1, 2, 3 entry. In retrospect, it would have worked. But CVS is not one that I like to jump around with. I like to be directional with it one time, and if I get it, I get it. If not, I stand aside. It's not really an active trader in the sense that IP has become. So I stood aside and just let that one go. VIA, I tried the 1, 2, 3 at the double bottom in here. Didn't really pay off for a scratch. Disney scratched early. Again, thought about the late entry here as it came back and it caught it 2 through the VWAP, but there was only about an hour or so left, and I didn't have the time. In the time, will, pattern, and money. Devon Energy, this one was a nice Kata 2 and an emerging dragon. After initial surge, it held support above the dragon. I like that, so entered and picked up 2R on a nice drive in the afternoon. No trade in emerging markets, too narrow. Ethereum, no trade, setting up for a breakout, I'm hoping. EWW was this was a rocket ship today. So the sell-off continued today. So after it broke through the Bollinger Band main, I get short right here. It sells off all the way down to 63.83 and reverses. I take a 1R gain right here as the R10 starts reversing. When it breaks through the dragon, I get my long here as it breaks above the dragon. Standard risk. It works nicely into the close. I just decided I was happy with that and took the exit here for about 4R and was very happy with that one. Mexico was good, but Brazil was pretty much in that sideways chop all day, so we stood aside. Intel, I thought hard about this as it gapped up and then broke back through the VWAP. I thought about it, didn't take it. It would have paid off, and then the recovery could have paid off. So this is still live, but it has some pretty wild swings in here. These are 2%. That's a 2% wide channel, and so that may actually reward some attention on the shorter time frame tomorrow. Today the IP gapped was one of the bigger gappers. It gapped up through um, the previous peak. And as it continued to rise up, went two risk boxes off of the open. So I speculated in. It ran all the way up to 37.85, which was remarkable. And then as it started to decay, I didn't wait for it to come down to the VWAP. I just cashed a gift of about 5R. Real estate, I just exited the trade on the gap up. So we had a nice cushion in the overnight short. We gave back 2R on the gap, and so I just exited. Took this one, we closed a really nice 2-day short position for about 3R, and then took the SSC in the most orderly trade that you could imagine intraday. It just rolled over, stabilized, broke the PSAR, cruised north, and closed at the high of the day. So I'm happy with that one, holding 1R in cushion. I think it has a good chance to recover a lot of this ground that it sold off yesterday. Regional banks, standard short when it crossed the Bollinger Band mean, gave us an R and exited here at the edge of the dragon. A statistically normal trade. Same with McDonald's for about 3R. Same trade. Short as it crosses the Bollinger Band mean, goes it deep into the winter, stalls, 1, 2, 3, exit, exiting at the skin of the dragon for almost 4R. That's some standard work there, fellas. Merc, no trade. I thought about it. Crossing the Bollinger Band to the upside, didn't take my own advice and regret it. Microsoft, no trade. Marijuana, no trade. Nike, no trade. There was a short side trade available. Had a late last hour rally, but I stayed away from it. Was really just watching Tesla more today, to be honest. Nvidia and clean energy, no trade and a scratch, the usual way. Rivian, I thought might benefit from the Tesla volatility sort of as a sympathetic short. So I tried that, but it just scratched. Then it never really rebounded as an alternative to Tesla. So, I mean, I'm not sure what's going on in that one. The S&P was immune to Tesla today. It had a little bit of a sell-off at that last hour rally, the last couple hours, had it close very near all-time highs once more. Treasuries gained a fraction. This is the big downward move in Tesla. We didn't have any overnight position. I decided I'm not going to play the swing trade at all on that one because there's just too much psychology in that one. I'll wait for the move tomorrow. Should be interesting. If it breaks above the PSAR at 185, I'm long. If it breaks below this RL10 about 181, I'm short, and we'll see how that goes. Walmart, on the other hand, made it very easy to be happy. We had a short position yesterday that closed down here. There was only a slight gap against us, so we gave about an R back. So we ended up cashing about 3R on yesterday's short. And then it just continued up through the dragon. I took the 1, 2, 3 and got filled here at like the spine of the dragon with the standard risk. And it blew right through the Bollinger Band mean. And at the 2R, I added 2. And then in the last hour, it just kept cruising. So I'm holding 2 positions long. It's testing the peak of the RL10. So if it breaks above 163, I may add a third position because this is getting up. This has recovered all of that gap, and I think that it wants to be up here around 163. And if it gets past 163.50, this thing is long gone. So I really like the opportunity here in Walmart. Now just notice that this little sell-off was only a third of the size of this sell-off. This sell-off gave buyers some real momentum and they ran it all the way up, stabilized, a much smaller test and immediately recovery. So that actually fills me with optimism for tomorrow that two position long could actually work pretty well. So that's me trying to whistle past the graveyard. This one in US Steel, no trade, stabilizing around 48.40. Sniper trades of the day. This is the trade that I did take in Tesla. So this one is here was the big 10% sell off to about here. By the time it gets down to about here, it's about minus 12%. But then it stabilizes at the top of the RL10 and at the bottom of the RL10. So that creates this sideways quiet channel. And the Bollinger Band mean has come down, crossed through the VWAP. The Bollinger Band mean is right in the middle of the dragon. So this is as close to the middle of the river, Crocodile River, as you can get. So I was playing for this kind of a breakout. It broke this way, so I got short here using the width of the channel as the risk. And if this goes that way, I'm ready to get long. If it gets above the VWAP, that would be a real confirmation of the upward move. If it gets above these two little dragon horns, would also be a confirmation to the upside. If it breaks below this, I would take that as confirmation of the downside move. So I view this as a compound critical state where the day traders got what they wanted. And now we're wondering, what does the follow through look like for the rest of the day as we enter the lunch period and are getting ready for the move beyond? So let's see what happens. It collapses. It stabilizes in the usual way. I take the standard exit at the PSAR flip. Ordinarily, I might try to get a little sooner on that one, but I wanted to give it every chance to fail further. It didn't. And so that was a nice intraday 3R move. And I just observed it the rest of the day, didn't trade it. So 3R in Tesla on that one. Check or hold? All right, this one is I don't know what. Can't remember. But whatever it was, yesterday it sold off to here and closed down here. That's the close yesterday. That's what this little blue line represents. And that was the VWAP yesterday. So today it gaps up and then establishes this OR3. So I'm prepared to get long here and short there. I'm ready to get short here, not just because it violated the OR3, but because it was part of a big gap up, a large volatile OR3, a failure on a failing day in the market, and then it's 1R using this standard R10. It's basically 2R to the bottom of yesterday's close. So there's my 2-to-1 reward to risk. So that trade frames out. So I'm willing to take it as an OR3. It gives me a fractional. So it sells off a little bit, finds support where you would kind of expect it to find support. Then the R10 reverses. And as this is coming up to intersect with the VWAP, I decide to just cash that little bit for a no lose plus dinner for two compared to that risk box. So tried it short, looked like it might work. It didn't. It flipped. I gave it as much room as I could to give it a chance to fail, but we made back a little bit. Checker hole. It continues to cross the VWAP and the Bollinger Band mean. So we get I consider that an SSC entry, standard risk. That loses a fraction. it finds recovery. I treat that as another cotta two, the same trade, just second try. This one looks like it's gaining a little traction. The VWAP has now left the wrist box. The Bollinger Band mean has left the wrist box. It's got that good first little leg up. Grinding, grinding, grinding. Failure to fail. That just feels good. And now it's accelerating. Beauty. The cows are walking across country. Off you go with your bad self. And I'm going to hold that one overnight. That one, that little grind, just leave it alone. 5R. Because it was going up and it never crossed the Bollinger Band mean. And that is the absence of volatility. And it was by far the strongest symbol in my entire stack of 60. And it's Walmart and it's pushing through an all-time high. And it's the opposite of Tesla and tech, which all suck today. And it's Walmart. That's why. I was hoping you were going to ask that. I had that rant prepared. You know, part of the market mosaic, part of this is knowing your symbols and knowing the market condition and knowing the sectors and knowing what's going on and putting that stuff together with a little bit of savvy and deciding where you can accept a little bit of risk and where you can have a light hand on the reins. The fact that this thing that the VWAP is just continuing to rise means they are hitting that with volume. That is volume on the buy side hitting the ask consistently. There's no there's no threat. Look at this. This is the absence of volatility. That means these little wiggles are insignificant. What matters is this slope that is just never looking back. And the fact that twice it tried to fail and it couldn't. And where else are you going to put money? The financials have been given back money. Tech is not taking a leadership position. Tesla's getting slaughtered. Energy hasn't rebounded. Where's a fund manager to go? Where's he going to put his money to work? Where can you park it while you're trying to figure out what to do? Put it in Walmart. Leave it alone. The real question you should be asking is why at the 2R battle drill, how come I'm not adding a second position there? Because I'm dumb. That was span of control. I was monkeying around with this is the period of time when the Tesla short is working and the market itself is sideways. That's real, genuine relative strength in Walmart. That makes this, there's no reason to get out of that. Now, I dare you to try to code what I just said. I dare you in a way that works every time. So part of that is just knowing your animals. All right, we'll look at the traders. Hamad was not in a good mindset today, was not following his rules, let anxiety get the best of him. So we're just going to respect his truth telling and not dwell on it and say, take care of your kids and come at it again tomorrow. George, I'm not sure that I would do anything different than what you did here. I mean, you have a really big gap down in Tesla, except that it's so it's so hard and I don't know, I was trading, I waited for that thing to settle down out around to here. That's about when I started to pick up the trade. But that's not bad on an OR3. You got a good chance of failure. You cut it at the VWAP. I like that. I like the second effort. Now, I don't think I buy this here. I want to see it get above. I'm sorry, I thought this was a second short. It's not. This was the exit on this one. I don't automatically stop and reverse that one. The fact that it did this tells me there was a ton of volume, a ton of volume. Nobody loves Tesla. And it's so big and fat, you can't even imagine how big the bag of money would have to be on the buy side to make this thing run north. There ain't that much money in the world. That's about a, I can't, I'm trying to figure out how much money that represents. That's probably $50 billion in market cap vaporized in the gap. So there's not that much money over here ready to turn it and run it around on one of the biggest companies in the world. So the trend is down. I like cutting it right here. The only way you could tempt me into this thing was if it actually made a new intraday high. It was never even close. Then I could get short here. Failing that, I like this short and scratch. I like the re I don't get long here for the same reason as the previous one, but I do like that short. If you wait 60 minutes, start comparing your statistics of the first 60 minutes versus the rest of the day. And you tell me what your expectancy is in those two different time frames. And then I'm going to ask you what your thoughts are about continuing to trade in the first hour. I like this short. I like the scratch or the cutting it in Alcoa. The trade in Alcoa is actually available on the threes earlier in the day. Satya in AMD continues to crush it. Gets -1 on the OR1. He tries the OR1 breakout. That's also an OR3 breakout too. If you combine those first three bars, you would still get an OR3. Quick 1 hour loss. He resets his brain, even though this was available short here, we're across the VWAP. He waits for the confirmation trade and then smashes it for 2, gets a reasonable SSC entry, crushes it here and picks it up here, and that's 2.6 for the day. So a good recovery from your early experiment. And then smashes, or was that Ilker? I'm sorry. Yeah, Satya. I'm sorry. Yeah. And then smashes Mexico for 5R just here. And notice he doesn't get that 5R and he doesn't get that 3R. So there was 11 available. He nails 5 the hard way. I would say consider a 2R battle drill addition right here as it crosses the VWAP, because now that it's made half of this distance back and it's crossing the VWAP, the next logical move is to go up and test this hump and to test this VWAP, which it did, which makes this a nice kata 2 because it gets through, holds, and then breaks through a second time, and it's above yesterday's VWAP. That makes this free and clear, and that's why you get another tactical move there. All right, today's report. In spite of Tesla, we're doing pretty well. That's the Walmart effect pulling it higher. And 30-minute consolidation. Bullish normal, overbought in all conditions. Volatility is favorable for long side moves. Um, Lots of good auto framers in the Dow. and in the ETFs, all that's good. Um, Plenty in the auto framer to choose from. Yeah, so this is all good. Business as normal, pushing to all-time highs. Leaders are going to continue to lead. That's your tech and a little bit. Finance is giving back a little bit, so it may be a buy on a dip, but mostly tech. And then your Microsofts, Cisco's, McDonald's. And I like Walmart's recovery today. It's in the fall, but that could easily switch to summer. And I like that for the long haul. And Tesla remains near the top with a huge daily average range percentage and still a pretty reliable active mover. So that's everything for today. Get it ready. I'll get ready for tomorrow. Tactical Friday, fireworks in Tesla. We'll get to see who the winners are tomorrow to see what they're willing to hold over the weekend. And let's go Chiefs and Lions. I'd love to be able to have to choose between the Chiefs and the Lions in the Super Bowl. That would be a pretty good day at work on Sunday. So that's who I'm cheering for.